What is up, people? Welcome to Blacklisted Radio. This is the back channel audio feed, sometimes the permanent podcast, although we have a big announcement, so I will probably have all of this taken care of and properly produced and commercial-free in the final format that we put on blacklistedradio.com. Cool stuff coming your way if you're listening. Coming this way. Yes, it's coming. A tidal wave of awesome. You guys doing all right out there? Oh, there's Ken. Ken is right on time.
With Hawthorne.
What's up, Ken?
Called Extend Device.
What up, man? What up? What up?
Right.
You living all right, man?
Doing good. Just got to eat some dinner, so I'm all good.
All right. Well fed, ready to rock. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Do I have my gate on? Gate. Do you have the gate on?
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting
Because you can handle the truth.
Because you can handle the truth.
Hell yeah. Have you been naughty or have you been nice? Mark Zuckerberg will decide your fate depending on how you feel about politics in general. Facebook, the platform, whether or not you say nice things, and you have to disavow bad people, dangerous people. Anyway, lots to get to. You can already kind of sense the vibe of the show. Let me tell you, the day of reckoning, it is here. It is nigh. All right, guys, welcome to Blacklisted Radio. I'm your host, Doug Owen. It's good to be here. Sunday night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you're listening to this live, thank you for doing so. We podcast the show at blacklistedradio.com. We have cool stuff there, ways that you can be part of the show, including an online chat room, back channel audio feed where you can hear myself and Ken there producing the show, talking during the breaks. A little insight, I guess. We kind of banter every once in a while if we get a chance. If Ken's not stuffing his face or doing other things, taking your calls at 800-313-9443. A lot to get to. By the way, you can be part of the show. Love to hear from you. You guys are why we do it. 800-313-9443. You can find the number at blacklistradio.com or RBN. You can also text the show, 512-222-3067. And, of course, you can hit me up on Twitter. BLN Radio is the handle. So, where to start? I guess we should talk about the Poynter Institute, the 515 outlets that they would like to see blacklisted before the 2020 election, the lead up to it. Blacklistednews.com made the list alongside many other contemporaries and, just horrible sites, quite literally. They threw us in the bag with, David Duke, Counterpunch, which is left-leaning, one of the few left-leaning organizations that, in Consortium News that were put on this list. And, it kind of is really just a sign of the times. Thinking back to when I started blacklistednews.com in 2006, I pretty much knew before we started building the website that this day would come, that at some point there would be a new town square, and it would be something like, the social media behemoths, the Silicon Valley giants that provide platforms that were a great way previously to expand readership and to expand dialogue, discourse across the digital platform, across the internet. And, what was that? 15 years ago, there was no YouTube. channels like this, or Republic Broadcasting specifically, was one of the few outlets that you could actually get some contrarian views towards the propaganda machines of the day, and discuss real conspiracies, things like the events of 9/11, on and on and on. And people have been talking about Internet 2.0. I kind of figured at some point we would not be allowed to operate freely and openly like we have enjoyed for the last 15 years or so. And though we were not specifically banned from Facebook or Twitter or any of the other platforms that people like Alex Jones, Louis Farrakhan, Paul Joseph Watson, Laura Loomer, and several others, Milo Yiannopoulos, I don't know what his last name is. I'm not big into Milo, but the provocateurs of the day. James Woods, who has become quite a popular conservative commentator, not just as acting, but he's very well regarded, well known on Twitter. I think had his account suspended, and all of these accounts had associated accounts on Instagram, which is also owned by Facebook, and those have been shut down. One of the more Orwellian aspects is not just that they're, deplatforming people like Alex Jones. Some of you might think it's a good thing. I don't know. Some of you may think, well, this is the right of Facebook. It's not a public utility. It's a private corporation. They can decide who and what is published on their platform. And, I would just point you to the idea, the notion that when Russia, spent a few $1,000s on Facebook ads, that was, tampering with the election process. It was tampering with the 2016 election. But, banning some of the most prominent voices, probably somewhat instrumental in getting Donald Trump put into office, garnering the global support that he received in the 2016 election. Banning those people is somehow not election tampering. Now, we can get into legal debate about election tampering, private companies. I don't know how I really feel. I'm kind of indifferent in that I believe that things like Facebook, Twitter, all of these very prominent platforms that people use. I mean, really, there are alternatives, but not many great ones. Not very many popular ones. I mean, you have Gab, some that are definitely competing rivals, but you don't have the public square that you have with in the amount of attention that you get from Twitter. So and Facebook as well. Although Facebook is probably waning somewhat, Instagram is where I think the future kind of is, where people are moving away from long-form dialogue and talking and sharing links and just looking at each other's pictures, sending memes. That seems like where it's going. But, ultimately, I believe that these monstrosities, they need to die. They need to go away. And the only way that you will ever have any kind of competition, real competition, that can succeed against these tech monopolies is to disrupt the system, to make it less useful, to get people like myself to, just not use it because the things I'm interested, the people I want to hear are no longer there. And, hopefully that ushers in something bigger and better than YouTube, bigger and better than Facebook or Twitter. So at some point you have to start moving towards that with the banning of these prominent voices. Maybe that starts to happen. Maybe that is the beginning of the end for these corporations that I think have gone far outside of what we originally appreciated them for, and that was the ability to share information the way we wanted. Now you have Mark Zuckerberg basically saying that if your opinion is not in line with his opinion, you cannot post. You will be banned. And, of course, the designation of dangerous organizations. How dangerous is Alex Jones? How many people has Alex Jones killed? I mean, let's talk about it. I mean, I other than, the argument that he's just a disinfo agent and he puts out useless information. He's a puppet for Donald Trump and the Zionists and all the other groups that are behind Alex Jones. Besides that, I mean, how many people has he really killed? I mean, you have people like Barack Obama who joked about predator drones and has a lot of blood on his hands. People like Hillary Clinton still have their Twitter accounts. These are people that were instrumental in making decisions that led to the deaths of civilians. Real world decisions, real world consequences. And they're on Twitter. So, I mean, of course, it's kind of a clown show. The hypocrisy is there. Calling Laura Loomer an anti-Semite just seems silly. It shows how intellectually bankrupt most of these arguments are because she happens to be Jewish. Milo, I mean, he's an antagonistic type guy, and he's said, things that people don't like. Big deal. But this is kind of where things are going. It's one of the, sad trends, I guess, because, you look at these groups like Prop or Not, the Pointer Institute that is putting out these lists of websites that they demonize, they want to demonetize and deplatform, just like, blacklistednews.com. I'm sure this, if this show had more traction, if we had millions of viewers on YouTube, we would garner the attention of somebody like James Woods that has 2.2 million followers on Twitter. But because we're still under the radar, we're allowed to operate in the shadows. But this is now directly affecting my livelihood and the ability to profit from the countless hours that I put into the website and doing these radio shows because we're on this list. So more and more advertisers are reaching out and saying, hey, Blacklisted News has been blacklisted. And, obviously the name speaks for itself. It's not shocking that advertisers are now using these lists, one of which Pointer put out, and they immediately retracted these unreliable news websites. I think it's kind of silly because if you go to my website, obviously blacklistednews.com is named that so that you know exactly what you're getting. There's no question as to what our agenda is. It's very forthcoming intentionally so that people know what kind of news to expect when they get there. And then the sources, of course, speak for themselves. So over the weekend, we covered this quite a bit. The SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, who, it should be completely discredited if you just look at all of the internal drama and scandal that has encompassed them. It's amazing that, or just lazy, back to intellectual laziness, it's amazing that they are still being regarded by news organizations and companies that are, looking to demonize, looking for these lists to enter into their algorithms of websites that just cannot be shared. So there's a lot of clown banning, and basically that's where, oh yeah, you see stuff going out and you see things popping up on your Twitter, but you really have no idea if they're actually reaching viewers. They call it a clown filter. Lots of comment sections even discuss we paid them more money for Blacklisted News would allow us to clown filter people. And it's just one of the, if not thousands of ways, people are being secretly silenced for a variety of reasons. Some are made public by Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey. Some are being done in the shadows by algorithms. So one of the things that I've always wanted to do is to find another way to monetize and to support the work that we do at blacklistednews.com. We've always used banner ads, different native advertisements and the like. One of the things I can say is that I look at the website, I read the website every day without any kind of ad blocking software. So if it inundates me, if I find it overly irritating, I know the readers will as well. And so that's one of the things that I think is kind of important when looking at or running a website. Does it irritate you? Do you hate it? Do you hate looking at it? That's just my thing. My pet peeve I have with websites. I'm like, man, I understand there's a need for revenue, but at some point you have to balance that out. And you're always in this balancing game, and you're dealing with advertisers that are going away and people that want to buy posts, and it just becomes this monotonous thing that I never really wanted to do, nor had the desire to do. Didn't really have to worry about it when AdSense and Google were happy to pay us, but once they blacklisted us, we had to go into the dark realms of the internet looking for other banner services. And it's just a pain in the butt. So what we've done is we have hitched our wagon momentarily to Patreon. Patreon is a website, most of you are probably familiar, where you can donate to creators, people that are putting out content, music, you name it, any kind of media or medium, or different levels of sponsorship. You receive different rewards. It's kind of a tiered system. And so one of the things that I've always wanted to toy with was this idea, and I've always heard it, if you could get every person that read Blacklisted News to give you a penny or a buck or a dollar or whatever it may be, you would never have to worry about ad companies. You never have to worry about all the other problems with having ads and having activists and really bored people going after your sponsors, putting you on blacklists, going out of their way to try to defund what you're doing, because that's the new attack method. Kill your YouTube, kill the monetization, make it so that people that are putting out a counter narrative to the one you like are silenced, and even beyond. Now they're taking bank accounts away from people that are considered extreme right or alt-right. And the left cheers, but believe you me, the writing is on the wall for all of the people that go against the system. At some point of the time, the pendulum will swing, and it'll hit you right in your ass when we have a Democrat, a progressive, in the White House, and their form of tyranny is resisted by those that once supported. You'll find out. You'll find out quickly that it's a two-headed monster, to say the least, when it comes to these slippery slopes. It's great to get all of those people like Alex Jones off Facebook. I've been waiting for that forever. Don't worry. Sooner or later, they will look at your posts and find a tweet from 5 years ago that is that's tasteless, or where you said something that is quasi-racist, and they're gonna get you. They're gonna get you and rake you over the coals. That's how it works. So, to all of those that are grinning and, I think the pointer list is good. We don't want Press TV because they're Iranian. We don't want Russia Today because they promote conspiracies. Blacklisted News. Actually, they said that the reason that they ban us is clickbait. So, Patreon is not foolproof, and people have been banned from Patreon, though the people I've seen banned from Patreon have really kind of gone out of their way to get into hostile dialogue with other people, or have just made so many people mad that they have like bands of angry people chasing them. People like Laura Loomer, people that have been so provocative, and I appreciate, people that go out there and prove a point, like, hanging out with a sombrero. By the way, happy Cinco de Mayo. But Laura Loomer, there was a great video. I mean, I found it entertaining, of her dressed up like a Mexican immigrant, I guess in her mind, what one would look like with sombrero, and camping in Nancy Pelosi's yard. And I appreciate the fact that she handcuffed herself to the Twitter headquarters door. See, I thought I liked being on Twitter, but not as much as her, apparently. Anyway, she's canned, along with all of the other ne'er-do-wells and those that criticize Mark Zuckerberg. Don't worry, this is just the first round. More to come. We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the other side. Don't go anywhere. It's Blacklisted Radio.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globals left open their
globalists
with all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency.
Them globalists, man. Tell ya.
Man, so what have you been up to all week?
What did I do all week? Good question. Let's see. Yeah, I mowed the yard. I got it weed-eated before the rains came. I discovered a Guadalupe soft-shell, spiny back or whatever turtle, man, in my little creek in the front yard. Never
Did you
saw
eat it?
one.
Sounds delicious. No, I'm just kidding.
No, he was too cute. He was too cute, man.
Sounds like a fancy dinner somewhere.
He was really flat. Kind of flat like a pancake. Not
Interesting.
like the regular snapping turtles, which we got tons of.
Is that a Goy comment? Is it?
Son?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Stop calling me
Oh.
Shirley.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm looking at the chat room, which can be interesting. Mer Bailey in there, holding court along with Cleet and some other people's Joust. Yes, mindless arcade game. I can get down to some Joust. For just about 5 minutes, and then I can't stand it. I'm trying to make it flat. Probably more like 3 minutes, let's be honest. My son has a little Nintendo. I forget what it's called. But it's got a bunch of built-in games. And Joust is in there. Pac-Man is in there. It looks like a little miniature Nintendo. It's kind of cool. Not as cool as Fortnite, though. Uh-oh. Dangerous individuals. Laura Loomer.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822.
Oh, wow.
Or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Always wanted more time.
It always comes down to burning books, doesn't it, kids? Getting rid of the people. It's not just banning them. It's making sure they are completely vanished from the internet. A guy, ALX the Lord, on Instagram posted a picture of him with Laura Loomer and Paul Joseph Watson. I think the middle person might be Milo. And Instagram immediately took down this post. It said it was they removed the post because it doesn't follow community guidelines. If you violate our guidelines again, your account may be restricted or disabled. And that just kind of blows me away. But if this stands, if people continue to be silent and continue to use these platforms for political speech, and I mean that in that I think Instagram's great for finding pictures in certain areas and, looking. I look at it to find out what different guide services are, how they're fishing down the coast, things like that. They're completely unpolitical and uninteresting to our overlords. Cigars, did Illusiononi put out a new Maduro this month? Blah, blah, blah. Stuff that has no political bearing. It's fine for that. And that's what YouTube is going to be reduced to at some point. I think that, we will continue to use the platforms as long as they allow us to. But I continue to find less and less reasons to even look at Twitter. It's completely I'm disinterested. It's uncompelling at this point. Every once in a while, I look at Facebook, but maybe that's just because I'm not interested in other people's political memes or a lot of other podcasts, a lot of other content, because I just don't have the time at this point in my life. So to sit down and be able to I've got podcasts I've already I've downloaded for months that I will get to. I haven't even watched Game of Thrones. I'm behind the 8 ball on it, but that's where it's going. So one of the things that we're doing is we are putting out a multi-tiered offering for Blacklisted News listeners and readers. And one of the tiers is an initial introductory $1 a month pledge to gain access to an ad-free template of the website, being that you log into Patreon, it shoots you back to Blacklisted News with no ads. Voila! Voila! You don't have to worry about anything, and you can see the comments section, and we'll put lots of cool content in place of ads that only Patreons will be able to receive. There's some other goals. If we receive 200 Patreons, we'll do a weekly boiler room breakdown, roundtable, a la carte type discussion, maybe an AMA type thing. And as I kind of flesh out this system, we'll probably start a Discord forum where people that are Patreons can comment in articles separately and be able to post news, show prep to different groups. And I think it'd be, really cool, something that, we can work through. We'll see how long Patreon runs. There may be some problems if we become highly successful, but for just $1 a month, it means more to me that you would support the network rather than the $1. Although you would be hard pressed to click enough ads every day or even in a month to generate $1 worth of ad revenue. So $1, I think, is a throwaway, easy number for almost anyone. I mean, unless you were living under a bridge right now, stealing the local Starbucks Wi-Fi to listen to this program, you probably have $1. So it's a great way to support it, even if you don't care about the ad-free site. Even if the ads don't bother you at all, you've created your own filter to that, and that's how I'm more interested in seeing what other people see, because if we have ads that are unsightly, then it's a turnoff, and nobody wants that. So it's a great thing to kind of gauge what kind of independence we can garner from this. And at some point we can ditch all ads and we don't have to ever worry about them, and we can focus 100% on creating content for this show and for blacklistednews.com, which is ultimately where I want to go with the website, and it gives us the independence so that if people cry and put us on all these websites that say that we're bad and we're dangerous people, we posted an article in 2013 from Paul Joseph Watson, get him. We have some anonymity, which is what you really need. I mean, obviously, our ability to reach more people, that are casually browsing the internet, is going to be significantly limited. So we have to ride or die with the people that support this show, this network that we're broadcasting through. We'll take your calls. I think we have Tom in Utah. We'll talk with you, 800-313-9443, right here on Blacklisted Radio.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from libertystickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. Libertystickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at libertystickers.com. Again, that's libertystickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux.
Neuropathy.
I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75% dandruff.
What is neuropathy?
Isn't it when it's cold? Neuropathy.
Tingly or something?
Yeah, I think so. Neuropathy. It's a good thing to know.
Something to do with the nerves?
Yeah, peripheral nerve damage often causes weakness, numbness, and pain, usually in your hands and feet. It often affects other areas of the body. A disease or dysfunction of one or more peripheral nerves causing numbness. I think I have that right now in my brain. Unnews.
So creative.
Yes.
Well, I guess if you can't meme, then, you got to do something.
Wow. All these things. Yeah, so my buddy's been working all weekend to get this freaking Patreon thing working. Works, though. For $1, you get an ad-free site.
Patreon, yeah.
They'll probably can me, though.
Aren't they kicking people off, too?
Yeah, I mean, they've kicked a bunch of people off, but I don't know. I mean...
There we go.
All right, welcome back. It's Blacklisted Radio. 800-313-9443 if you'd like to join us. We go to the phones. Let's talk to... Let's see, who do we have? Oh, don't do this. I hate the new Skype. We have a caller. It's Tom in Utah. Tom, welcome to Blacklisted Radio.
You know, in '95, I started to publish on the web, and I had this gut feeling not to monetize anything that I put up.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that was the correct path. You know, I'd worked in the medical pharmaceutical industry, so I knew what I was saying was kind of contrary to them. So I worried about, again, you know, advertisers coming in and being a burden to me, and then actually ending up sanctioning it. And this is what I'm going to ask you: is do you think when you monetize your website, does that put you in a little bit higher scrutiny in terms of your content?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you don't have any money coming in, then, and you're not worried about money, then, you know, really, how can they hurt you? The only thing they can do is ban your server, ban you, kind of like what happened to the Daily Stormer, where they were unable to get a .com name. They were actually banned from many different domain name servers. You could still have an IP address in a server somewhere, but it's very hard for people to find you. You know, we have our IP address up there on the right-hand side of blacklistednews.com. So, yeah, if you're not interested in any kind of financial return, then you know, then you don't have to worry about it. And you know, that's probably also determines how much investment of time you can put into you know, what it is that you're doing. At some point, you know, if I'm putting 8 hours a day into blacklistednews.com, if that's not creating some kind of livelihood or at least some kind of positive income, then, you know, I've only got so many other hours in the day that I can work a 9-to-5 gig. I've only got so many other hours in the day that I can, you know, figure out other ways to try to turn a dollar. So, yeah, I mean, you know, that's kind of the up and downside of doing anything that garners money. I mean, obviously, you know, I not only have to take the advertisements, deal with the advertising companies, deal with all of the feedback and the criticism from readers that don't like the advertisements. I then have to go and file taxes and pay almost, you know, half of that money back to the federal government that lets me rent that money in my checking account for, you know, 6-7 months. So, you know, nobody hates them more than I do. But yeah, I mean, if you're not interested in if you don't rely on money to operate, then there's only a few things they can really do to go out there and get you, and that means that you definitely have to be on the radar. But I mean, people can make the same comments about, you know, people saying things on Blacklisted News in the comment section, things that are nasty or you know, hate filled. You know, at some point there's, you know, they're trying to make, I know YouTube is trying to make their accounts, or the people that run those accounts, their channels, culpable for the comments, you know, and you know, somebody like Joe Rogan who gets 50-60,000 comments. I mean, how can you keep, you know, how can you put that kind of responsibility on them? But, you know, and I think that for the most part, this is all selective. You know, at some point, if somebody really wants to drive that boot into the back of your neck, they have the ability to do that. And that's why we've come up with, or at least instituted, this initial plan to try to, you know, really focus on readers, giving them the option, at least in the early stages, to get ad-free access, and even more than that, it's just a way to offset the reliance that we have, and to be able to do other things. It's not just, you know, operating as it is today. There's many other things that I would love to be able to implement that require a lot of time and paying programmers and those kind of things. So it would definitely free up a lot of the things that I would like to do. It would actually put those in action. Any other thoughts, Tom?
Well, just the benefit that I've received from not monetizing is the fact that most of my efforts have not been interfered with.
Yeah.
But of course, also maybe that's why you don't get higher ratings in the Google search or in the search engine. See, in some of my stuff, you have to go about down 10 or more items to even see it at all.
Right.
So I'm wondering if it was monetized, if that actually would influence them to push it up further.
If you can beat the algorithms, it's really about clicks. How many clicks do you get? The popularity of the website. If we got 100 clicks a day, we would get no money in revenue ever. You need tens of thousands of clicks if you're going to monetize in a banner world. And that's not even going to be that financially advantageous. It'll allow you to stay definitely under the radar. There's definitely less ways that people can go after you if if you're not taking donations. The IRS has less scrutiny. Everybody will have less scrutiny. The question is, it would probably, even if you got 1 million hits on that a day, regardless of whether you're making money or not, and Facebook didn't like it and it came to their attention because you were getting that kind of traction, you would have scrutiny. Appreciate the call, Tom. A lot of stuff that I want to get into tonight besides censorship and a plea to support our work. We should talk about what's happening in Venezuela. Obviously, I've got my thoughts on that. Just to wrap up the Facebook stuff here. Facebook's Ireland War Room is preparing to block misinformation in EU election. You can bet this is a test run for the 2020 election. This comes from Daniel Taylor, Old Thinker News. Facebook has shown itself to be nothing more than a tool of globalism. Operating from Dublin, Ireland, Facebook is set to counter actors that want to manipulate public debate in the upcoming EU elections. And think about that. I mean, that is exactly what politics is. Manipulating public debate, asking people questions or taking questions from a moderator and doing everything you can to not answer it, to put out distruthful things. That's just politics, which, that just it's so frustrating. It's like, what is misinformation? People put out lies. The candidates put out lies. Their parties put out tons of lies. They all have their alternative facts that they bring to the debate. So, if the Russians are buying, Facebook ads for one or the other, or telling people that they both suck, I don't think that has a lot of bearing. But what we've learned through 3 years of Russiagate, what we've learned through all of this is that the real operation, the real rub has been a tech monopoly coagulating, now interlocked in lock and step with one another to crush dissent, to crush those voices that they deem dangerous, whatever that may be. New York Times reports, modeled after the war room that Silicon Valley company created before last year's midterm elections in the United States, the people inside are tasked with washing Facebook of misinformation, fake accounts, and foreign meddling that could sway European voters. So there's a lot of people out there that get to decide what is misinformation. I mean, at some point, I just don't think that there's any point in taking your politics to Facebook. And hopefully this is the end. Hopefully it'll kill Facebook. The company, the corporation, is so huge. It's got plenty of other investments, and it's not to say that the company will ever fail, but it fails to be useful in finding information about candidates. And I think a lot of this really just goes right back to, they know this is where grandma is. I saw a report that may be true, that like 70% of fake news that is circulated happens by people using Facebook that are 65 and older. So they don't want grandma reading Alex Jones. That's what they don't want. Any of those people being swayed by Paul Joseph Watson or Laura Loomer. These people are dangerous, and they could, get Trump reelected maybe. I don't know. They could mind wash the people. So, I mean, it's truly Orwellian. Not shocking, and at least it's kind of out here. I mean, for people to make a decision as to whether they want to continue using the platforms. I don't know. I think at one point it'll come to just being unuseful. Federal judge sides with federal government, rules mass surveillance can remain secret. Interesting report that came out from The Mind Unleashed and has good sourcing. Derek Bros wrote this. Federal judges ruled that the federal government can assert the state secrets privilege to keep details of the warrantless mass surveillance program secret. Of course, when we all found out, thanks to Julian Assange and others, Ed Snowden, yes, AT&T, Verizon, all of these companies are working with the NSA, and they have secret wireless, warrantless access, and the NSA is getting access to customers' phone records. They say they're not getting the meta. They're just looking at where who's calling when. 26-page ruling, Judge Wright wrote, the court cannot issue a judgment without exposing classified information. I love this. We cannot even rule because a ruling, any kind of explanation for this is it would risk the agents' lives. It would risk the secrecy of these programs. It's kind of the point. Anyway, not shocking, but one of the many things that you would think that the left and what's left of the real journalists in this. I mean, I don't even know if there are real journalists, quite frankly. I could probably name like less than 100 that have not become activists. They're not advocating or trying to use their position to push their own agenda, their own political leanings. There's so little in the way of good journalism being published on the internet. Let's see. This is kind of an interesting tie. I saw this, and it's a sign of things to come. Amazon employees are hired and fired by robots. Robots at Amazon decide who gets a job based on performance algorithms. The robots also decide who gets fired. Software and algorithms are used to screen, hire, assign, and now terminate workers at Amazon. For lower paid employees, the robot overlords have arrived. And this is pretty wild. And people worry about the robots taking your jobs. Now they're deciding who has jobs, who will be audited by the IRS. All these systems, that's really how we got banned from Google AdSense. It was an algorithm that saw words that it didn't like and saw comparative words to other articles and other sourcings or sightings and said, nope. And there was nobody to talk to there. There's no human beings. So now they have to literally look at the productivity of human beings, deciding who gets to stay for this low-paying, probably crappy job, and who gets fired. So the more and more we accept algorithms at Facebook telling us what we should politically believe, what we should be interested in, what kind of decisions will be made by algorithms in the near future will kind of be determined by that apathy towards this. And I think it's the biggest thing. I mean, the one thing that scares me beyond globalism, nationalism, and any of these other things is that we are moving towards a technocracy. We're seeing that play out in a functional way in China with the social credit scores. We kind of have that. I mean, Blacklisted News is now on a bad credit score. You're a bad actor. You have bias. Things like that. Venezuela, the forensics of this clownish coup, the establishment talking points have become, pretty nonsensical. There is a complete failure afoot, and this is the slow, progressive coup d'etat that has been going on in Venezuela for years and years. Michael Bolton and Pompeo have been pushing Guaido, Guaido, I think is how you'd say it, or Guaido, was pushing him to announce this coup d'etat, to announce this civilian and military uprising, and some of the, according to Bolton, some of the inner circle, the military elite in Venezuela, reneged, and it created this embarrassing situation. Some people were ran over in the streets by military trucks. The Maidan, if you will, did not play out in the U.S.'s favor. The talk of ground troops, military intervention, I think, is just that. The U.S., I don't think, can wage another war, and I don't think that they're going to have the national support, the global support for this. We've talked about the missteps in Syria and Ukraine, and you really have the same thing here, the push to nationalize privatize the nationalized oil resources in one of the largest, if not the largest, oil reserve on planet Earth, at least in the top 5 that we know of, discovered oil. And that is a big shot in the arm for the Maduro regime. Not a big fan of Maduro. I've talked about him before. I think that, there's too many cronies that have soaked the Venezuelan banks and the government, and so they've left people with piss-poor options. But many of those piss-poor options are also due to U.S. sanctions and the isolation of Venezuela, other partners, including Cuba, going after Cuba, putting more pressure to isolate and separate the few nations that are in the same situation with Venezuela. I'm talking about Iran. I'm talking about other like company that are on the other side of empire. So didn't look good for the United States. And Ron Paul, he begs the question, or he put it out there, kind of macabre, but said, now I think maybe Guido might be dead, worth more dead than alive. It's an interesting take, Ron Paul. All right, guys, quick break. Back on the other side. We'll close up shop right here on Blacklisted Radio.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When your doctor tells you you have bad cholesterol or blockages in the arteries, what do? When diet and exercise is not enough, we try medications and hope for the best. For the last 2 decades, I have been telling people about a natural method to help solve these problems and more. Extendovite can help maintain cardiovascular health and lower blood lipid levels in adults. The 7 herbs in Extendovite are known to work together synergistically to get the results we hope for. There are many testimonials on Extendovite's effect on circulatory-related ailments. Get Extendovite today to start your journey back to a healthier life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or see us on amazon.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
And I say, hey, live it like we're ready.
All right, welcome back. It's Blacklisted Radio. Not a whole lot to say about Venezuela other than, I hope that the Venezuelan people truly get a representative government. I don't think that they have that now, and I don't think that the U.S., with regime change, with the history that they have had, the long, horrible track record of regime change, will be able to fulfill that for them. People should decide, and the U.S. should not meddle. I mean, when we talk about meddling in elections, I mean, just look at what the U.S. is doing around the world, not to mention the Russians, the Chinese, and every other superpower. Messing around in elections is something that is a tried and true tradition of U.S. foreign policy, and that's why I have to laugh when I hear people talking about the sanctity of the election and whether Maduro's was legitimate or far from it. You have to balk at it. It's really quite silly when you think about that situation. So, Florida legislature passes an anti-Semitism bill for public schools. I thought this was interesting, and it's kind of more of the push to regulate free speech, to relegate the BDS movement, to make it just harder to be critical of the Israeli government because it considers itself sacrosanct and attaches itself to the religion itself. So, if you're critical of Netanyahu and you think that he is a bad man, bad actor, then you are anti-Semitic. Or if you're critical of some of the power structure that is enjoyed in Israel that falls on U.S. soil, if you're critical of that, you can be put in the washer. A bill prohibiting anti-Semitism, in Florida's public schools and universities is going to Republican Governor Ron DeSantis. The Senate unanimously passed the bill Monday, 2 days after a gunman opened fire in the California synagogue, killing one and injuring three others. It should say allegedly. He is arraigned and he has pled not guilty. It's going to be interesting. He looked pretty guilty. He looks like a creepy guy. He didn't do himself any favors with his bug stare, but I don't know. He could be drugged up. I saw this guy. What was it, Wednesday? We had the video at blacklistednews.com. Lawmakers mentioned the shooting before passing the bill, which would mandate that discrimination against Jewish people be treated the same as acts of racial discrimination in public schools. It has the definition, the extensive definition of anti-Semitism, which includes speech that makes dehumanizing or stereotypical allegations about the Jewish community, includes expressing hatred for the Jews, calling for the killing or harming of a Jewish person, criticizing the collective power of the Jewish community, or accusing Jewish people or Israel of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. Did they exaggerate? Did they create the Holocaust? No, but they've used it as a political fork for quite some time. The collective power, are they working together collectively? I don't know. Does it matter if there's a secret handshake or if people are just looking out for their own interests and that just happens to be other people's interests? It's very interesting, the definitions here. Anyway, that is the tide, and we'll see. We'll see if people want to champion free speech, if they continue to, vie for free speech over, being ensured that your feelings will never be hurt. Scary prospect. Guys, that's my time. Thank you so much for being here. Go to Patreon, support us, give us $1. Let the people over at RBN know that you support them too by checking out all their sponsors. Thank you to Ken, who broadcast and run this show. And I'll be back next week. Until then, take care.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure?
Foreclosure.